Hi everyone, I'm Daniel again. Superfeng99 is here too. We're going to talk about scenario number 4, Devil Reef, which also has a short number of words in the title, even shorter than last week. But the amount of content in this one is not short at all, so let's get right into it.
Do it. So we are in our second flashback of the campaign. This is 3 weeks earlier, according to the campaign guide. Let's see. This is after we've gone to Innsmouth, and we're looking for. Yeah, someone told us about this thing called Devil Reef, and I think that's where potentially things are going on. I think.
Yeah, maybe like
right?
the entrance to Yanathlay or something, right?
Yeah, something like that. And yeah, that's really all it is. So we're out in the ocean, or I guess off the east coast of the U.S. I guess that's where Innsmouth is, right?
Yeah.
So somewhere in the Atlantic, I guess, albeit not so far off. Anyway, we have a lot of setup to do. So we have some investigators set up. So we don't get Eleanor Harper obviously because she doesn't exist yet. However, if the mission was successful, we get to add Thomas Dawson to someone's opening hand. If the mission failed, though, they just get shuffled in. So we at least do get him, but he is available right now or no.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What's interesting about that text, I think we'll come back to this later in the campaign, is that he does count as being part of your deck to some extent.
Correct.
So if he leaves play, he goes to your discard pile. In some other scenarios, that's not the case.
Alrighty, let's do some setup. A lot of setup. Well, we have a little button that's helper, but this will set up the islands that we have in Devil Reef here. So we have like 4 little places that we can go to. This is the introduction of the vehicle mechanic, which is really neat. Basically, actually, I should probably remind myself what this mechanic, how this works. So, yes, you can either be at a location, or you can be in a vehicle at that location. And you can use a free trigger to enter or leave a vehicle it's just during any free trigger. However, you can only do that once per round. And notably, you can only do it either leave or enter once per round. So if you've left a vehicle, you cannot enter a vehicle the same round. You have to stay out.
Mm-hmm.
Very important. Blah, blah, blah. If you're at a vehicle, you're still at that location. So you're not at 0 location or whatever. The only thing is that if you're in a vehicle, you cannot move independently of the vehicle. You have to be with the vehicle. So anything that would cause you to move basically cannot make you move unless the vehicle moves also, which is very interesting.
Yeah. I don't know how much I like it, but
yeah, it's a little wonky. It is like a neat idea, definitely very flavorful.
Yeah.
But
the rules are fine. I just think that it blocks a lot of player cards.
Yeah, that's true. All right, I'm gonna spread these out, we will get to what those do when we open them up. But we're gonna start here.
So with the setup also is there's these 3 unfathomable depths. There's 3 other ones that we didn't see. There's like 2 of each of the possibilities. So there's some randomness in what those are.
And have a different agenda 1, depending on a memory that we have or not. So if we recovered a battle with a horrifying devil, which we would have recovered in the Pit of Despair.
Mm-hmm.
If we have that, we get a certain version of the agenda. If we do not, we get a different version. And I'll go over the difference. It's just the back of that card when we get to that.
Okay.
And finally, we have our act. We have to go find these special purple, white, and black keys, which assumably can only be found at these Yanathlay locations. And so we got to go find them and get them.
So here they are. There's some other keys that are in this bag. Those are random.
All right. So we're starting here on the fishing vessel in the Churning Waters. So the Churning Waters enters play fully flooded, even while it is unrevealed. And it is a 6 shroud, 0 clue location. As an action, if you are in the fishing vehicle, resign. Everyone in the vehicle resigns. And you remove the fishing vessel from the game. And then each resigning investigator places their purple, black, or white keys on the current act. And everyone else left to fend for themselves, as it says, which is very, very funny.
Yeah, so this also is worth saying that on the act it says that nope.
It's on the agenda.
On the agenda?
Nope. What are you looking for?
So when here it is. While you're
Okay.
in the vehicle, treat your location as if it were unflooded. So even though this is fully flooded to begin with, you are in the boat, so it is not flooded.
Yes. Also, we should talk about the agenda, because the agenda gives some additional text. 1, as an additional cost for you to move from one ocean location to another while not in a vehicle, you must spend 2 actions. This is just to say, it's very hard to swim across the ocean. You have to spend like basically your whole round. And then it has the same forced effect that is from the original, from whatever, the Pit of Despair, where if you're at a fully flooded location when your turn begins, if you don't enter or be in an unflooded location by the time your turn ends, then you take 5 direct damage. It specifically calls out an unflooded, partially flooded, or a vehicle, but obviously a vehicle would include either of those two. But yeah, there it is.
Yeah, so we'll come back to that in a bit, but I think it's kind of important in this one because getting away from the unflooded locations is likely.
Yep. Okay. Where do you want to go first?
So everyone can be in the boat, and only one person needs to drive the boat, which is nice.
Yep.
So let's just go this way.
All right. It is the wave-worn island. 4 shroud, 0 clues. When you reveal it, increase its flood level. Okay. Put 1 random set-aside unfathomable depths and 2 random set-aside tidal tunnels into play, each adjacent to wave-worn island, but not to one another. So, for example, you could do like this, and that.
Mm-hmm.
That would be something that would work.
This is awful. I hate this.
What don't you like about it?
Okay, so the way that this works is that you don't know what these locations are. You're going around looking for keys, as you're going to see. If one of these locations isn't where you want to be, you then need to go back. And then to another action going this way. On higher player counts, sure, you can spread out. But having tons of dead ends in a scenario that makes you move a lot, I think is pretty rough.
Yeah. All right, let us enter these tidal tunnels, shall we?
Yeah, let's go clockwise. Hey, look, a place that you don't want to go to.
Hey, it is not fully flooded, which is nice. Here's the other one. Ooh, it's an underwater cavern.
Now, these guys are important, but we'll talk about that later.
Indeed. Finally, we have an unfathomable depths. 1 shroud, 2 clues. When it's revealed, you make it have fully flooded, and you put the white key here. And investigators at this location control both the blue and the green key and spend 3 per clues. You can take control of the white key and read flashback 10.
Well, we don't have any of those keys, so
I guess we're leaving.
I guess we have wasted our, action to move in here, a couple actions to move back and forth, and yeah, we're gonna get in the boat and come back later, maybe.
Yep. All right. So we're gonna have to go all the way back here because obviously this is not connected to anything else yet.
Mm-hmm.
And then let's go over here. All right, we have the salt marshes. So as an action, if you control the purple key, you can look at the revealed side of any tidal tunnels or unfathomable depths location in play, which is nice.
Mm-hmm.
And when you reveal the salt marshes, you just increase its flood level and put 1 random set-aside tidal tunnel adjacent to it. So no unfathomable depths here. See what it is, though? Hey, it has a key. So we get a random set-aside key. And if you control the black key, you gain 5 resources once per game. Victory 1, 4 shroud, 1 per clues.
That's just flavor text, in my opinion.
Well, let's see. Or yeah, I guess the black key is somewhere else.
Yeah,
it's one of the special ones.
It's one of the special ones.
Yeah.
All right, what do we got? Oh, it's the green key.
Hey, we're halfway there.
Yay.
Victory
point. All right, so you get your clues here. You can get this key. So importantly, of course, you can't get this white key by clearing off the clues. You have to use the special ability here. That's what it says on the act, but yeah.
Yep.
All right,
shall we move on?
Let's move on.
Here we go. we have the Lonely Isle, and if you'll notice, it is actually connected to the Bootlegger's Hideaway. Sorry, I should say the Salt Marshes. My bad. And so you could technically use the fishing vessel to go from there, but now only when it's revealed, since on the back it didn't have that symbol.
That's right.
All right, so when it's revealed, you put 2 set-aside tidal tunnels into play, and that's it. No more, unfathomable depths.
Which is probably fine, because you don't really want to go to those first anyway.
Correct, yeah. You want to get the keys first.
That said, they may tell you which keys you need, so, you know.
Yeah. Hey, we got a key here, which is nice.
Okay.
And in theory, this one isn't flooded. So that's good.
Let's see what we got. Red key. That's not what we want.
No,
but we should take it anyway.
We should take it anyway. We have another more cavern. Okay. So this one is a little unhelpful.
Yeah, so
because,
this could allow you to go swim back over here.
Yes.
But
if this was the right key.
It's not the right key.
No. All right.
The funny thing about doing that, of course, is you need to have another player in the game to then drive the boat back over to you, probably, unless you want to go back to this one and then go back here. But at that point, if you're moving an extra couple times, you might as well just have everyone go together in the boat.
Yeah. And the important bit is that in order to end the scenario, you have to have either all 3 keys and you immediately advance, or you have to go and resign. So technically, you could like Hail Mary yourself to get the last special key and not have to go in the boat to resign, and that might be the one useful case for these ones.
That's right.
Alrighty, let's move on. Is it gonna be wonky? Yes, it is. All right, so I'm gonna move. Oh god, I'm gonna do one.
Maybe these two.
So these ones go here.
Oh yeah, that works too.
This one goes here.
Nice.
All right, boat is here. Hidden Cove. 1 tidal tunnel and 1 unfathomable play adjacent to that tidal tunnel. So it's like kind of in a line. Like this.
Or maybe up this direction so we know it's not connected back this way.
Sure. So our tidal tunnel is the tidal pool. Very nice.
Nice.
Is that flooded? No, it's not.
Comes with a key. Yellow key.
That's not the one we need either.
Nope. Let's see if we can use these.
All right, this is the black key. And what does it need?
The blue and the yellow.
Oh, okay, we need the blue for both of them. All right, this one's unfortunate.
I mean, this just seems to be how it goes for me, too.
Yeah.
I find the RNG in this part to be like, I don't know. Yeah, okay.
Yep. Anyway, we're moving back. All right, to the last one. Notably connected above. Black Reef. Increases flood level. And then we put 2 random and then 1 adjacent to those. So it's like a little square.
Square.
Like this. That works.
Yep.
All right, let's go to the left. Okay, there's the last one, which must be the blue one.
Yep.
That's good. This one is victory. And then this one is the last one, has the purple key, and you need the red and blue ones. So all 3 of them needed blue. That's crazy.
So what's the green key is only for this one?
Yes. So, I mean, at this point, obviously, if you've gotten this far, then you're like, well, we probably have all the keys, so we just need to get to all of them as fast as we can.
Yeah, go back. Now, that's much, much easier said than done. I think just running around revealing locations could take you 8 or 9 rounds for sure.
Yep.
Yeah. Especially with a smaller player count. It is also possible with these to get a configuration where you don't even need one of the keys at all.
Yep.
So the purple key, I think, wasn't necessary for anything. Is that right? Oh, sorry. Purple key is one of these. No. So the red.
The red key, I think. Yeah. No, I'm sorry. It is the red key. Yeah. Because this one requires blue, green. This one requires. Oh no, that's red. Blue.
The red. Okay, but it is possible to be like blue, to get one where you don't even need the red key at all, or something like that.
Yeah. So the other options for each of the other unfound, each one has a different version. So this one is like green, and yellow. This one is red, green. This one is red, yellow.
Yeah.
So yeah, it is possible that you don't need one of them, but it's very unlikely.
Yeah. Of course, that might be good because you got that key, but it also might be bad because you got that key that's not necessary and you didn't get the ones that they need.
Yeah.
First, anyway.
Yep,
Yeah, that's the general conceit of this. It looks like a fun, interesting map, but there's more trouble ahead.
indeed. All right, so on the agenda flip, depending on which version we get a version of a particular enemy. So let's do version 2 first, actually.
Sure.
So this one is if we didn't get the memory, it spawns the Terror of Devil Reef writhing in the deep. So it is 363. It spawns in the fishing vessel's location. It has Hunter, Massive, and Retaliate, but it cannot enter cave locations. It deals 2 and 2, and when it would be defeated, instead remove all damage from it and exhaust it, and it cannot ready for the remainder of the round, including the upkeep phase. So basically, it only has 6 health, and you have to kill it over and over again, but you can't kill it, kind of thing.
Ugh. Yikes.
Yeah.
And it's a roadblock. So I know that it says here that it cannot enter cave locations. It makes it sound like you can run away into the caves and be safe. But it'll be waiting there for you when you come out of the cave.
Correct. You could, I guess, like swim in a hole to get to the other side before it gets to you.
Yeah.
But yeah.
This is truly annoying. I don't know how many times I've dealt with the unkillable version, but
Yeah, me neither.
maybe get that memory in the first scenario.
Yep. However, yes, if you do have the memory, you get this version instead. It is the Terror of Devil Reef Grasping Abomination. 363 Monster Elite. It spawns in the fishing village location. Hunter, Massive, Retaliate. It cannot enter cave locations, but it gets +3 per investigator health, as it's like the actual monster that you can kill now. And you have a chance to kill it. Victory 1.
Yeah. Okay. Probably you should. That way you can actually go around without having to worry about this giant thing that everyone has to evade every round.
Correct. So as a reminder, every memory that it checks for is like a very flavorful thing. In this case, it checks if you went to go slay the devil or the Terror of Devil Reef, because if you didn't go to go slay it, it's kind of like it's just in the water and like with its tentacles, you can like hack the tentacles. But this one means that like, oh, you actually went for it. Which is really cool. I think it's really cool.
I think so too. But he's a pain in the butt.
He is indeed.
Yeah. Again, after this is what, nine rounds. This is probably fine for you to be set up to deal with this guy. But there are other enemies, and this guy impedes how much you can use the boat, I think.
Yep. And then we have our Agenda 2. It also has 9 Doom and has the same effects. So we ultimately have 18 Doom worth of agendas.
That's a lot.
And I actually don't think that anything adds Doom to the agenda in this scenario.
No,
and yet it always feels like you don't have enough time.
Yeah, but it's mostly because if all locations were always in the same place, there would be a optimal way to go or something.
Yeah,
and you would be able to complete your task. But mostly you're wasting time moving.
Correct.
A lot of dead ends. A lot of decisions to make. Like, do I sit around and get these clues from the underground river just for the victory point?
Yeah.
There's literally no other reason to get them.
Yeah. Notably, well, I say this every time, but Luke Robinson can absolutely destroy this scenario because he doesn't care about him being in the ocean.
Nope.
He can just go through the dreamscape. And that's pretty nuts.
All right. Scenario reference card.
Yeah.
These skulls scale with a number of keys that the investigators control, and that can get pretty large, right?
It can technically go up to 6, because once you get 7, you win.
That's true.
So it's a -6 at its most, which is pretty bad.
Usually, though, you're kind of waiting around for a while before you get those last 3 keys, so shouldn't be too terrible.
Let's see, Cultist. Yeah. -2 if you fail, and this attacker blah 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 engages you. Oh, if it's already engaged, it just disengages and re-engages. So it's doing the deep one thing.
Yeah, it's deep one assault, kind of.
Yep.
All right.
And tablet -3 if you fail, you're not in a vehicle, take a damage.
That's fine.
Elder thing -4 if you fail, take a horror. Okay. Those are okay.
Yeah, they're fine. That's not the struggle in this one, I think.
Definitely not. Shall we look through the flashbacks?
Yeah, so there's just the 3, right?
Yep.
Okay.
And oh yeah, by the way, there are the glossaries on what the keys represent, which is actually cool because the purple, black, and white keys, which are the special one, actually do kind of hint at what they might give you.
Yep.
Because each flashback is actually going to get you something. So, flashback 9, you will recover a discovery of a strange idol, which is interesting. So you discover the wave-worn idol story asset, and someone there can take control of it. And yeah, so let's look at the wave-worn idol.
Over here. Sorry.
Yeah.
There we go.
So it's a 1-cost asset, item and relic with 2 sanity. Reaction after your location's flood level changes, or after a deep 1 enemy spawns at your location, exhaust wave-worn idol. Immediately take an action as if it were your turn. Doesn't count towards the number of actions that you could take. This one is very, very nice.
Yeah. Do you want a Leo DeLuca for free, basically?
Yep. Only costing 1 with slotless. That's pretty sick.
Yep.
That's pretty good. All right, next we get an Unholy Mantle. We get the Awakened Mantle, which is this one? Nope.
That's the headdress. There we go.
The Awakened Mantle, 1-cost asset, has 2 health, item, relic, clothing. Free trigger if your location is flooded. Exhaust the Awakened Mantle. Move to a connected location that is also flooded. This one has saved my life more often than not.
Yeah, I like this one a lot. I do think this one's really, pretty fair, though, because sometimes you don't have another flooded location that is connecting. So
that's true.
And then spoilers for the last scenario.
This one is insane. That scenario.
It's good, but it also stops working after a little while.
Right. But like, that's true. But I will say, I think this one is like you can FUD that later one to like have it only be unflooded near the end.
Yeah.
But you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Anyway,
it's also something Lonnie Ritter can fix.
Correct. This one I really like because in the moments where you're like in a fully flooded location, this one gets you out.
Exactly.
And so it can be really good.
Yeah, I love this one. This is like the first one I ever got when I on my blind playthrough, and yeah, I like it.
Yep. And like, you know, people, I don't know why, but I feel like people always underestimate movement that is in fast windows.
Yeah.
And this one really exploits it. Like you can do some crazy stuff with this.
Yeah, that's right. Okay, cool.
All right, and lastly, we have the memory of a mystical relic. We have the headdress of Johannes Lay. 1 cost, 1/1 health sanity. You get +1 skill value while investigating a flooded location or while attacking or evading an enemy at a flooded location. I think this one is definitely the worst of the 3.
This is the worst one.
But it's like, it's nice to have.
Yeah, I'm not going to say no if it's there for free, but the problem with it is, well, you can't soak anything, really. It's not like you can put 1 damage on the other one, right? The Awakened Mantle. This one, it just gets maybe 1 attack. I guess you could let it be defeated that way, but otherwise, +1, you're probably not going to do anything extra special that your deck already wasn't able to do. The extra action, the extra movement, that is something that comes in handy to get yourself out of a bind.
Yeah.
All right. But if we do this, it does not actually add them to our deck quite yet. We'll talk about maybe the resolutions now.
So, if no resolution was reached, we just go straight to R1. So actually, I believe that's the case for if we doom out as well. Yes. So actually, that one has a little additional thing. The tide has grown stronger.
Right.
Which I don't even know what that does.
Probably in the next scenario or maybe. One of them. Yeah.
Anyway, we still go to R1 regardless, and in R1 we leave Devil Reef, or do we? What happens? Oh yeah, next is we go to the Lair of Dagon. So actually that makes sense.
Yeah.
We kind of go back to Innsmouth. Anyway, so yeah, we get Victory Act, blah blah. And if the terror of Devil Reef was in the victory display, then it is dead. Otherwise, it is still alive, and that will matter in the next scenario. Actually, yeah.
Yep, it will. Weirdly,
I know. Yeah. I'm gonna talk about the next scenario, but like, how the heck is this thing here?
I don't know.
Yeah, and yeah, we go to Interlude 3, Beneath the Waves, and we will see what happens with the purple, black, and white keys. Basically, for each of them, we get to add them to someone's deck, and you get 2 additional experience if you did. but you have to add one of the bad chaos tokens.
You don't actually add them to their deck. You don't get to do that till scenario 6.
Oh, that's right. My bad. I forgot. This one was always very confusing because I was like, what happened to them? Correct. Sorry. They are brought to the lighthouse, which is going to be important because that's where we're going. You still get to add. You have to add the tokens now, though.
Yes, you do.
Which is sad. But you do get 2 additional experience. And this is how, I believe, we were able to get to like 26 experience to spend out of this scenario. Because,
oh my god!
Like you get previous scenarios experience, this scenario's experience, plus potentially 6 more for getting all 3 of them, and that's a lot of XP.
Yeah, this is wacky. I don't know why they give you 2 XP for each of them. They're already nice to have, but the fact that it's hard to get them makes it pretty swingy in case that you did, right?
Yeah.
I don't know. Like 1 each seems to be fair, but
yeah.
If you only get 2 of them, you're missing 2. If you only get 1 of them, then you're missing 4.
I'm sure that probably their expectations were like, you're probably just gonna get 1 of them, and that'll be fine. And then they like realize that it's extremely swingy between like getting 0 of them, or like you could potentially just get 3 of them if you're really, really lucky.
Yeah.
So like, yeah.
Okay, we could talk about this now, perhaps. My first playthrough of this 3-player, we got 1. And, you know, we didn't always know what we were doing. We didn't have very much XP. Don't forget, you don't get to spend the XP from the last scenario. So you're potentially going into this with, I don't know, like maybe 11, 10 XP, depending on how you did in the first 2 scenarios.
Yep.
So this is very tough for the first half of the campaign to be on such low-powered decks, which is one of the reasons why I think if you play this without having the flashback penalty, this scenario becomes way easier.
Yeah.
Now, we just got 1, and I was like, okay, sure, that, as you said, that's maybe what they kind of expected, and I was like, that's fun, we'll move on to the next one. And then I read things about people online saying, yeah, we got all 3. I'm like, what are you talking about? Like, I don't even see how that's possible. I don't, like, it, and I see now, like, I've done it before, but things have to go very well. You have to have a lot of extra actions, movement, tech, play Luke Robinson, whatever it might be. But normally 1 or 2 is probably what just happens.
Yeah, 1 maybe 2. 3 is very unlikely. And as I say that, yes, I did get 3 on our blind playthrough. Mostly just because someone was playing Luke Robinson. And I think we were also a little lucky with the placements of the locations. I think we got one where it was like we had one of the unfathomable depths that had the 2 keys on the other side of it that we needed. So I was like, well, all right, that's how we're going. And yeah, it did take all for us to open all of them to like get all the keys, of course, but Luke Robinson definitely helped with that.
Yeah.
To be able to just go back to where they needed to go.
He's just the keymaster then, right? You just
Yep.
All right. The
keymaster indeed.
The other reason why I find this to be difficult is some of the encounter cards are going to make you waste your time a lot. So let's check those out before we talk more about this.
Let's do it. All right. So we have a lot of new ones. First, we have some scenario-specific ones. We have the Deep 1 Predator, 4/2/2 humanoid monster Deep 1 Hunter. When it engages you, you move one of your clues or keys to the Deep 1 Predator. So if you have no clues, but you have a key, you have to move a key, which is annoying. But when you defeat or evade it, you take control of all of its clues and keys. So fairly enough, you can just kill it. Or evade it, actually. 2 evades not bad.
And it's really easy to evade. This guy is a piece of cake. I'm so glad to see him.
Yeah. All right, next we got the Hunting Deep 1. 3/3/3 humanoid monster Deep 1 Hunter. While it's engaged with you, you cannot enter vehicles or gain resources. And after it engages you, if you are not in a vehicle, you lose 2 resources. If you're in a vehicle, you leave your vehicle. I guess he's stealing your stuff.
Now, this guy's not a piece of cake, and I hate him.
Yeah, this guy's annoying. I mean, notably with the gain resources part, right?
Yeah. I mean,
geez,
this guy's just a lot of, I'm not gonna say like a ton of health. It's only 3, but
yeah.
He makes you, I would rather stay in the vehicle, but then there's other reasons not to do that because you want to get back in the vehicle that round, right?
Yeah, especially if you're like, oh, we're about to leave, and you're like, oh god, I got to deal with this guy before I get out.
Exactly, and that's tough.
Yeah. All right, next we got Shapes in the Water with one of the funniest arts that I've ever seen. This guy's really scared of this lantern. Anyway, terror. Test 2 willpower. If you fail, take 2 horror. It's +1 difficulty if your location is flooded, +2 instead of it's fully flooded. This card's fine.
Why isn't this one and the next one like one of the core cards from this campaign? Doesn't it seem like it could just be
like literally in the set that cares about being flooded?
Right.
Yeah, it's like this is the edge of the earth cards that just care about the frost tokens, right?
Right. It's so simple and has, I would say, nothing to do with this scenario in particular.
Yeah, that's true.
Granted, I mean, there's a lot of damage and horror in this one, and this is part of it, but I could see this showing up in literally every other scenario and be fine.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
All right, we got the Aquatic Ambush. It's you put into play next to the agenda deck, and when you reveal a chaos token while attacking an enemy at a flooded location, reveal an additional chaos token max once per test, and every round you get rid of 1 copy of this. So
hard to remember.
More often than not, yeah, it's hard to remember. More often than not, I feel like this does nothing.
Yeah.
I don't know what it is. Like literally, usually you're like you draw this and you're like, okay, I guess we don't draw any enemies now.
Yeah, I think if you're playing on higher player count, you're more likely to draw enemies, and then it's in play. It's kind of like the one from Forgotten Age that gives like all snakes or something +1/+1 for the end of the round. But then if you have no enemies in play, you're like, okay.
I have a question.
Sure.
So, if you're in the boat
and
you attack an enemy at your location, even though your location is flooded, it's not flooded.
It's not flooded, right?
Correct.
You just get in the boat most of the time.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's basically like you're attacking the enemy while it's also on the boat.
Yeah, it is one of those questions that I had when I first played this campaign, or this scenario. It's like, where am I, right? Where is the enemy? The enemy's not in the boat, right? Or something. No, you're still at the location. It's just that you treat your location as being unflooded, so this does not actually happen.
Yeah, and that's why usually this rarely does anything for me, because it's like, not only does it have to be against an enemy, but it has to be against an enemy at a flooded location. And therefore you have to not be in the boat for that to even matter.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
anyway,
otherwise it's a tough effect, right? Like you have to overcome 2 modifiers, so
I guess so.
Potentially fine, but anyway.
All right. We got Horrors of the Deep. It's shapes in the water, but for agility and damage. Classic.
Yep. Okay.
All right, we got Stowaway. This is an interesting one, if I remember. So if no investigators are in a vehicle, it gains surge. Otherwise, each investigator in a vehicle must either take a damage and a horror or leave that vehicle. And everyone who left a vehicle cannot enter that vehicle for the remainder of the round.
Oof.
Yeah, this one's tough because sometimes you need to be in the vehicle, and otherwise it's just like a testless 1 damage, 1 horror, basically.
And it affects everyone.
Yeah.
So, you know what's funny is if you draw this on the last turn and you're trying to resign.
Oh gosh.
You have to take the damage and horror, right?
You just drown. Yeah, you have to take damage and horror for sure.
Yeah. So yeah, the gating of this scenario is often who can drive the boat. Can everyone get in the boat?
Yeah.
They don't give you 2 boats, so unless someone is Luke Robinson or wants to swim, then these kinds of things really screw your timing.
That being said, I don't think this is the worst card. I think the next one is the worst one.
Yep.
And it's Dragged Under. So you put into play in the 3rd area. If you're in a vehicle, you leave it. You cannot enter vehicles. And you have to take an action to test combat or agility 3 to discard this. So for me, this one sucks because 1, you might not be good at these stats, and therefore you just cannot enter vehicles. Therefore, you have to get someone else to help you with these stats and have them take the action to do it. Most likely, they might not be at your location, so you might have to get them out of the boat to get to you to test the thing so that you can get back on the boat. It's really tricky.
It also makes you plan your turn order, right?
Yeah.
Usually the fighter is the one driving the boat around because the cloovers want to jump out of the boat and run around and get clues. And if you're trying to get back in the boat and the fighter's already there, hoping to drive the boat on their turn, now they have to go first.
Yep.
So you can get in the boat.
Indeed.
There's 3 of these. It's tough.
Yeah, it's tough.
Now, the non-fighters might need to do this, though.
Correct. So this one, you attach it to the nearest vehicle story asset. action abilities on attached asset cannot be triggered. And as an action, you can test 3 intellect to discard the malfunction.
Yeah. This is funny because Daniela can't fix the boat.
Rip.
And she can't fix the car in the next one either, which is more funny.
Flavor fail.
Yeah. Sure. I think this is okay. It's just another action tax here, which is very similar to Dragged Under, in my opinion.
Yeah. I think, like, for me, it's, like, slightly different because of the way that the locations work out. Like, this one's always on the vehicle. And so there's never a question of getting the right people to where they need to be because they just need to get to the vehicle.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas, like, Dragged Under is, like, you need to get the right people to the right other person, if that makes sense. But
yeah,
that's how I've always figured it.
With Dragged Under, though, like, you can still go to the location with the boat and someone else can test it. They just need to then take the triggered ability to jump back in the boat.
As opposed to Malfunction, anyone at the vehicle can test this, as opposed to, like, having to turn order it specifically correctly.
That's true. Right? Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I mean, this one is its own encounter set for some reason. They just decide to stick 2 cards in and they reuse it next scenario and never again.
Never again.
All
right. We got a new encounter set, though. We got the Loigor. Which is insane. 3/5/4 monster. Prey, the fewest cards in hand. It has Aloof and Hunter. So the prey is going to matter. While an investigator at Loigor's location has no cards in hand, it loses Aloof. Forced, at the end of the enemy phase, each investigator at Loigor's location or a connecting location discards a random card from their hand. Do you know what this is? I don't know what this is.
The Hleuger is some mythical Welsh beast, I think.
Oh. Does it cause them to forget things or
I don't know.
Stuff? I've always wondered, like, why is it causing them to discard cards?
I don't know. Yeah, it's a good question. And being aloof is kind of strange for this giant monster, right?
Yeah, it's huge. It has victory 1, but it's not elite. So it's one of those special non-elite victory enemies that can be cheesed very easily if possible.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, very, very good shot on that. Waylay is tough because it does have 4 agility, but still a decent target if you can pull it off.
Yep, you can exploit its weaknesses.
Mm-hmm.
That's a pretty good one.
Yeah, and if you can exhaust it somehow, I suppose, without engaging it, that's also good for Waylay.
Yeah, for sure.
It's a good enemy. We do see it again, I think, at the very end of the campaign.
Correct.
But in this one, it's very tough because of this whole its location and all connecting locations.
Yeah, it's just hard to remember.
It is, but yeah, looking at the map again real quickly, it's very hard to get 2 locations away from anything.
Yeah.
So, like, if it's here, everyone is getting a discard. If it's here, it's still all of these locations, and then this one and that one as well.
Yeah.
So, I think you just kill it when it shows up. If it shows up early, it's very hard.
Yeah. The nice thing is that it's aloof, so you can at least get time to set up to kill it as well.
Yeah, you could play something. Okay. We got 3 copies of Psychic Pull, and this time you've got no choice in the matter. You just discard a random card.
Correct. If you have no cards in hand, though, you can search. But, yes, you discard a random card from your hand, then test Willpower X, where X is the printed cost of the discarded card. If you fail, lose an action.
So if you discard a skill, the test is?
Difficulty 0.
Difficulty 0.
Yes, and it's not because... I looked this up, right? It's not because the cost of a skill is 0. It doesn't have a cost. But specifically when it checks or something in the game literally says if you can't determine the value of something, it's 0.
Yeah, is that right? There's an entry on the letter X and what that means.
Yeah,
and that's what it
says.
For
X specifically, that's right.
Yep.
If it doesn't have a value, it just becomes 0.
Yep.
And if that text didn't exist, this would just fizzle, which is very interesting. But anyway, yeah.
Yeah, this was fine. I don't think it's that big of a deal to lose 1 card, and usually it'll be not a huge penalty. It's basically you could lose a card and an action. Essentially what happens. That's fine.
Fine. Yeah, it's obviously not the best thing in the world, but it is a test, so you can try to succeed it. And like this has an interesting where if you accidentally discard a high cost card, like in theory you're like, oh, I wasn't gonna play the enemy because it was like so expensive. But obviously maybe if your deck was built around that, then that matters. But discard a random card from your hand. Okay.
Yeah, you could lose Agnes's weakness if you want.
Correct. So the question that I had was, what's that rogue weakness that costs 10? It costs 10, right?
Pay your dues.
Pay your dues, yeah.
The and then there's Preston's weakness too.
There's also Preston's, yeah.
Yep.
That would be hilarious. Well, like you're like, oh, I took an action for free, basically.
Yeah.
So maybe that's a good thing.
Yeah. So yeah, I agree that like sometimes you've got the one card in hand and that's the one you are going to lose, obviously, and it was something to get you out of your mess. That's annoying. But
yeah,
if as long as this is like comboing with Hoyer being all over the place, I think it's okay. Deep Wind Bowl also makes you discard cards, but that one at least you choose. I don't know. Run more card draw.
Card draw. All right, and everything else we've seen before. Once again, Bill might be moving a lot and moving across oceans to get to you, which is always hilarious. I guess same thing with Deep Wind Assault.
Yeah, I think these guys are tough. The lurking Deep Wind, also you can't really get away from him so easily in these sorts of maps. Like you draw him, kill him, but then you have this guy, right?
Yeah. And this one's always funny because these ones, I always feel like they just don't do anything because you're in the boat.
You're in the boat.
Yeah.
They just gain surge.
They just gain surge. I'm like, I didn't realize that this card was in the deck.
Yeah. So again, the map itself is big and has lots of these dead ends. It's mostly like stowaway, dragged under, malfunction, hunting Deep Wind to some extent that slow you down a lot. A lot.
Yep. And that's really that's always where I feel like, even though this scenario has 18 Doom Threshold, you never feel like you have the time because you're moving so much and you're getting rid of dragged unders and getting rid of malfunctions. It's just like, it's a lot of things that just prevent you from doing anything.
Mm-hmm. So I played solo this week, and I'm not going to spoil it, but as a solo player, I'm not predominantly solo, but this is a very tough scenario because sometimes you just spend your entire turn dealing with an enemy, and then next turn your whole turn is moving a boat, and then the next turn is a whole enemy turn, and then you're moving like one location and then back again, and then it feels like those 18 rounds go by extremely quickly. Yeah,
so I always feel like, so with these kinds of map layouts where it's very like explorable, solo really suffers when it comes to the action tax for moving, because like in theory it doesn't scale. Because the thing about like playing this 4-player, that's like it's feasible that you can split up and have a team of like 2 and 2. Someone is like always moving through the caverns or like someone's on the boat just trying to find where the other keys are, for example. And in that way you can have the location movement scale up with the player count, and therefore it means that doing this solo means that you have none of that advantage. You just have to go through every single location one at a time.
And it's awful.
Yeah.
But yeah, like you're right. In 4-player, it's very feasible to like drive the boat away, do some exploration, and then come back and pick up the other 2 people.
Yep.
Yeah, and that's totally fine. I wish there was just some other way to reveal some locations, peek at locations. I don't know. Something.
Yeah. Interesting if instead of having the reefs be unrevealed, like they're revealed at the start, and like you can see their layouts to begin with, maybe like that might help.
Yeah, because this whole thing is, I think, tough. The fact that they all have different number of locations connected to them. If I had them all revealed, I would go to probably this one first, the one with the 4 locations, because it's easy to go in a little circle and then come back to the boat. Plus, it has one of the unfathomable depths, and maybe you get lucky with some keys. Then maybe like this one is okay. The dead end ones are very action intensive.
Yeah, and I think also it would help because it would mean that you could be able to move from Devil Reef to Devil Reef.
Yes.
Directly instead of having to go through the center, which can get really, really annoying.
Yes. And with the enemies, I think it's really tough too, because you then end up revealing a connecting location when you had to go this way.
Yeah.
Then you've revealed it in
The
Deep
ending
One build
catches
can
up.
just go right here.
Yeah.
And you're like, come on, man. I had to go this way in a boat. How do you know about the pathway? Yeah.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Like maybe that's part of the intended experience, but the scaling is less fun
Yeah.
than I would hope.
It definitely is, because like the flavor is that like, oh, you have this one part of Devil Reef, you like go back into the open ocean and you go like randomly search and you're like, oh, this is actually like nearby where we found this other place, right? So I think it's definitely intentional. It's just it's annoying.
Yeah. Again, especially on lower player counts. Higher player counts, you can maybe, like I said, leave someone behind, and then it's only one action to get back to them.
Yeah.
All right. Well, let's talk about some ratings. I don't think we have anything else to talk about on the board.
Let's do it.
All right. So we're back to talk about some of these ratings. The replayability here, sometimes we like to talk about if there's random locations or at least randomized layouts. And we just got done talking about that. I guess it's true that there's differences between your playthroughs, but I'm not sure it benefits so much from it in the way that other scenarios have benefited from lack of foreknowledge by the players.
Yeah, I would say that at least it's interesting. Like it's the thing about this scenario in particular is that the reefs don't interact with each other very well. They're all isolated, with one exception being the underwater caverns. And honestly, that part is cool. Like the part that you can cavern between the reefs, which is, I think that's really cool.
It's cool, but it doesn't always work out, right?
Right, and that's to say that it can change a lot of things. And I think it's a bit of added replayability to see where those underwater caverns show up, because it might help in some circumstances. But yeah, like ultimately the layout is different, and like I do really like the fact that the layout is randomized like this. Like maybe if they had one that was like a sixth one that could get lost, or like I don't know.
Yeah, five instead of the always the same five. There's a sixth one.
Yeah, I mean that's the issue is that they have like a different number of the title tunnels, so they have to like add some extra ones to make sure that you could actually build it without
that's right
failing to do it.
Yeah.
So there's some like logistical things there, but maybe it could be done. But like I do think the replayability in this one is there. It definitely feels like one where, there is a reason to want to replay it, to like, oh, if we can get more of these relics or whatever, the special keys. And I think that's definitely part of it, where you're like, oh, I want to get more than just one this time, for example. Like I want to try to go for all three. So for like, if anything, it feels like one of the it feels like the wages of sin, where you're like, we are unfortunate with the layout that we've been given, but sometimes you want to try and go for getting all of them.
It is scenario 4.
Yeah, what is it about scenario 4 in campaigns that like really suck? Okay, that's not always true, but sometimes it's true.
Yeah,
I feel like in the past like 3 campaigns it's been true.
What was it in Forgotten Age? Boundary Beyond, right? Yeah,
Boundary Beyond.
Yeah. Well,
and yeah.
Let's see. Like I'm trying to keep my bias out of this answer and push it into the next one. So I think the playthroughs can be different, and there's maybe more to enjoy for like that degrees of completion aspect. Ultimately, though, you still see these tiled tunnels again, and there's not. I don't want to say it hurts in this scenario. I think it's actually further where you start to notice it more. But they're just the tiled tunnels from before, and I don't think they interact other than the fully flooded ones. That interestingly, it's like, okay, these are where the keys are going to be. I like the bootleggers' hideouts or whatever they are. That's kind of neat. So where are you gonna go on this one?
I have to give it props because I really like the idea of the island stuff. So I'm gonna give it a 4. I think it's really cool.
Okay, I can go with that. 4 as well. Okay, now we get into the fairness.
Yeah. Okay, so I think this one is unfair. And I mean, this is not a surprise. We've talked about it, that a lot of the random elements in the scenario you cannot mitigate. You are stuck with them. The order in which you see the not only okay, here's the bad thing, right? Imagine if all of the tile tunnels had a key on them. That would be a lot different.
Yep.
But like, sometimes you're like in the first location, for example, in the one we just did, we're like, there are 0 keys on this island. What why? And so
then you have to go to the next one and hope that you get some more information, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah, and I think again, it's like it's the fact that each of the unfathomable depths requires specific keys as well. It's not like a number of keys, right? That would be a lot more straightforward. Like if they needed like 2 keys or 3 keys, or just like 2 plus the number of the special keys you have, for example. That would make it so that it's much more linear. And maybe they didn't want to do that. Maybe it could be like, oh, they needed exactly 2 or 3 or 4 or something like that. And if anything, that would be honestly still cool. It'd still have the aspect of you having to go back, but it wouldn't mean you needed specific keys in order to get them. And like that just adds a level of randomness that is really unfun. Where like you're literally at the whim of the dice to be like, I hope we get the right keys, and if we don't, then I guess we lose. Because that basically is the scenario.
It kind of is, and just the action text to move around and that's all you're doing, I think is kind of unfun. Right? Like you just half the time are taking move actions. And you can't really, this is what I was alluding to earlier, because of the vehicle, you can't really make that go any faster.
Yeah.
Track shoes I played in this scenario, it's not very good. The only thing it's good for is you move into a location, you see it's the bad location, you go back.
Yeah. Which I mean is useful.
Yeah, it just that feels like the scenario design is is making you do something that you wouldn't always do in other scenarios, right? Like it's just kind of annoying. Yeah. I don't know. What if you could move from any of the islands to any of the other islands instead of having to either go back to the middle or just having them only attached
that was
to
another
two?
That was another thought I had, where instead of like, basically every island would be connected to every other island and the churning waters. And actually I think that would be a lot better. Like it would still have the element of you having to go back out to the ocean to get to another island, but it would mean that backtracking would not be insane. Like a minimum 1 extra location would be necessary to backtrack.
Yeah.
As opposed to like 3 locations potentially. And like I also had this idea where like, you have every island connected to every other island and the churning waters, but you don't have to have it in this configuration where it's in like this pentagon. You have it so that each island is just a place, and when you're in an island, you can just move to a new island from that island. Right. And it's kind of like you're just exploring a different built map. I think that would also be a lot better. And just have the churning waters specifically there for the resign ability, or like have the resign ability on the boat, for example. Like,
kind of reminds me of Dream Eaters with the Search for Kadath, where there's all the different maps to put out.
Exactly. Like, and that's basically what this is. Imagine if you did play Search for Kadath, but you had to go between the different places. That'd be a nightmare.
Oh, yeah. What if it was like, if you want to besiege the king or something, you have to go back to the other location.
Yep.
Right. But, and this is worse because you don't actually know what any of the islands actually have. So there's no pathway that is obvious. So it indeed is just totally up to the random elements.
Yep.
Now, the pressure part, I think usually we talk about the doom, and that's not part of it. Here, it's the weird and not weird, but the encounter cards that make you get in or out of the boat or don't let you do so. And I don't think that is done particularly well either. I think it could be, but the problem is this is the exact problem that we have with the scenario, is that the pressure point is about movement and moving the boat and lining things up. And even without all of this nonsense about the enemies or the encounter cards that make you get in or out of the boat, that's a lot of pressure already, right? This is just adding insult to injury.
Yeah, I think a lot of it is that it, like 3 of the cards in the encounters that, or technically I guess 6 or 7, tell you that you cannot do something. cannot enter vehicles. You cannot enter vehicles. You cannot trigger the action ability to move the boat.
Mm-hmm.
I think that, and this is usually just my design philosophy, but I think they could have just been more interesting with it, where it's like, instead of saying you cannot, it's like, if, like, you know, leave this in your threat area at the end of the turn. If you're in a vehicle, take a damage, and you can take a test to get rid of it. So it means that you can still be in vehicles, but you're just disincentivized to do so. But you can still do it if you're desperate. You're not stopped from doing it. Same thing with malfunction. Like, maybe just as an additional cost to test or to move the boat, you have to test intellect X or intellect 3.
Mm-hmm.
And if you fail, like, everyone on the boat takes a damage, and then you discard it, right? Like, the malfunction blew up something, right? Like, I think there's much more interesting ways they could have prevented you from making progress without just saying stop.
Yeah, and they're all an action tax on top of the action tax of movement and the boat itself. Whereas, say, Frozen in Fear, yeah, that sucks, but at least they give you a free chance to take the test. So imagine Dragged Under that let you get rid of it or something like that by taking a test into your turn. Then, I mean, yes, it's worse because you have to take the test on your own. They could figure out another way to make that work, but the fact that it is a action during your turn or someone's turn to get rid of that, just to let you make any sort of progress, is just stacks up. As you said, there's 7 encounter cards that make you do something like that. Anyway, what do you want to do for the rating?
I will give it a 2.
Yeah.
I think
that sounds right. What do you?
Yeah.
What do you say?
I was gonna say, like, I think the Doom Clock is fine.
It is
as stated. Like, it always feels like you have just barely enough time to do what you want to do. So, like, it's generous to the Doom.
Yeah, I mean, I can imagine always with the Doom Clock, even if I don't complete the whole thing, I can see how it's possible to do it. But I'm usually counting even a couple turns ahead. I'm like, well, to get over there, I need to get out of the cave that I'm in. I need to get in the boat. I need to drive the boat, then get out, then move again, and spend the clues. Right? Like, that's usually a couple of rounds. As you said earlier, if that's the last key, you can do it. If it's not, it's actually kind of annoying because you shouldn't even do it. You should just go back to the boat and resign in the turning waters. So it almost disincentivizes you from getting the second key.
Right.
Rather than the third, because the third ends it. You don't need to go back and resign, which is another couple of actions.
Yeah.
Well, having said that out loud, I'm going to give it a 1.5.
Okay.
I think that's sort of annoying that if you're actually very close to finishing the whole thing, that they give you an extra boost, basically. But if you're only trying to get that second one, then they're like, don't even bother.
Yeah.
All right. The balance. So you talked a little about the agility and combat tests that are on this one.
Yeah.
Otherwise, I think it's okay.
Okay, and I think that, again, this one definitely incentivizes a lot of movement options. It doesn't have the same minus sanity as the previous one,
right?
But I do think that, like, well, obviously we've shown, like, maybe balance is, like, part of balance is the solo ability of this one, and definitely solo is definitely not very friendly to this one. So that maybe drags it down a little bit as well. But
sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, otherwise there's something for everyone to do. And if you are, is there anything that you, like, are you totally hosed if you can't pass the intellect test? I guess so.
Yeah, actually, yeah.
And
technically also the dragged under test. You have to be able to pass both.
Yeah, right, that's right. So you got to have a team that can pass one of those, or you can do Alter Fate or Award, maybe. I don't know.
Yeah.
They're not super tough tests, but they really block your ability to make progress. If you auto fail it when you committed, your, I don't know, your perception or unexpected courage or something that you're holding back for it, then I guess you're kind of stuck.
Yep. And again, like, that's why I mean to say that I don't like the designs where it just says you cannot do this thing. Like, I much prefer it that it just punishes you for doing so and then have you test it at some later point.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
So malfunction in particular, I think is we obviously we haven't talked about the next scenario, but that one it works differently for the reason you're kind of mentioning.
yeah, because
It makes you not do the thing on the car, but you don't really want to do the thing on the car that often. Whereas the boat, you have to move. There's no way around it.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, I mean, I guess
Definitely.
you can spend 3 actions to move or something, but
yeah, exactly. So yeah, I think for balance, like I think that it's mostly okay, but it does have these pain points. I'm gonna give it a 2.5.
Ooh, okay. It's a lot lower than I thought. Actually, I was going to do lower than I thought too. I was going to give it just a 3. It seems kind of average.
Yeah.
Like, there's room for improvement here, but there is something for everyone to do. But if you can't do some of those things, it really sets you back. Like, I don't think the boss is terrible, but it does have a lot of health. And
True.
If you're chased by that thing and the lawyer at the same time, I don't know, it really impedes a lot of your progress, especially if you can't somehow figure out a way to get rid of them quickly. But not terrible. At least it gives the fighter something to stay back in the boat and do. All right. Last thing on our list is always the overall experience. Well, there's a sense of discovery. Always kind of fun with these kinds of scenarios where you're traveling around in a vehicle and saying, hey, what's over there?
I also like the idea of the islands. I like how they are little isolated pockets of locations that are connected to the ocean only. I like that idea. I like the Terror of Devil Reef as like a enemy in the scenario. It's like cool when it happens, kind of thing. And like, I love the flavor points of the underwater caverns, being able to swim to other islands. I think that's really cool as well. I also like the boats from a flavor perspective, because it just makes sense. You're just like, yeah, while I'm in the vehicle, I'm unflooded. It makes sense. And use it to travel around. Like, it wouldn't make sense if you were just walking around the ocean somehow. Like, you need this vehicle somehow. So,
and I like how in some of my playthroughs with groups, when we've bigger player counts, of course, had someone stay behind and then they realize the boat's not coming back for them.
Yep.
It's always kind of funny.
Yeah.
Like, you got to find your own way off this island.
Yep.
But
that being said, I actually do think also it's a little weird how the keys are represented in this one, specifically the set aside ones.
Yeah.
Because okay, so they do give a description for every key. But like the red, blue, green, yellow ones are literally just various devices.
Yes, used to gain entrance into deeper parts of Devil Reef. Well, thanks.
Yeah,
thanks the last one wasn't great there on that front either. It said something like it was just pieces of information from people.
Yeah. And again, that's why it would make sense that these set aside ones should be interchangeable and it shouldn't need to check specific colors of them. It just should say if you have like 2 or 3 of them.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, and also like I don't know why these keys would be hidden in these places. Like, I understand why a bootlegger's hideaway is here, but why is there a key to Yanathle there? Although I maybe I get it, but anyway. So again, I like the flavor of the islands. Like, I like how, the shape of the island is kind of reflected in the description of it. Like the Black Reef has these locations that you have to go in deep to be able to get to the unfathomable depths, as opposed to like the Lonely Isle, which just has these 2 friendly tidal tunnel ones. Like, there's some flavor there that I do like. Like the Hidden Cove, for example, is like a cave, so you have to like go in there and you have to go deeper to get to the actual unfathomable depths, kind of thing.
Yeah, I think the unfathomable depths have some pretty cool art on them too.
Yeah,
they're kind of neat.
All right. So with that being said, I think like overall it's good. Overall, like the gameplay loop perhaps is not great, obviously just because of the way that this has been constructed. But like I think the ideas are there, and I like that. So I'm gonna give it like a 3.5.
Yeah, that sounds about right to me too. I almost wish that there weren't as many islands. Maybe if there were just 4.
Yeah.
I wonder if it would A, make it easier, but B, the loop itself doesn't get um, as much repetition. So, because I find it's like fun at the beginning, and then uh, it stops being as interesting once I'm treading where all these locations are and hoping that the last one actually wants the keys I already have.
Yeah.
You know, I wonder if 5 was just a bit too much, or maybe that could be a scaling thing. On solo, it's just 4 islands or something.
Yeah, it might be a scaling thing for sure.
But of course, I understand why it's harder to do because they require the exact number of keys and locations and all that. And when things are random, it's hard to randomly remove things and still keep the balance. But I bet they could have figured out something.
Maybe.
Okay, 3.5 is where I will be as well. Neat. Any last thoughts?
This one's wild. This one's a big one.
It is. All right. Well, thank you all for watching, and we'll see you next time. We've got a card chase to talk about. I'm looking forward to that one because there's a lot of hot debate about that one. I think this one, Devil Reef, doesn't have quite as much, or maybe it's just me, hate on it. Just because I think if you play at a higher player count, you can do it, and it's probably pretty rewarding.
It's also a scenario where it just rewards you for as much as you can rather than trying to win it or not.
Yeah, yeah. But yeah, the horror and high gear, which will be next week, is decidedly a different kind of scenario altogether. So
correct.
More vehicles, but a different spin. See you next time.
Goodbye.